Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today we're driving the 981 GTS. This is probably my favorite car of the 981 generation, even over the GT4. GT4 is a little hardcore, and today we're just gonna go enjoy some nature. We're gonna go for a little therapy drive with my buddy Mike. He's got his E63 AMG over there. What a great two-car solution this is. The best thing about the GTS over the Cayman S is that it came standard with the limited slip differential, and I swear that Porsche made this car not only just to add another trim level, but I bet a lot of people weren't optioning them the way they envisioned people optioning the Cayman S, and the GTS is like the perfect optioned Cayman S with a mild power bump at 341 horsepower. It's a negligible increase, but it's there nonetheless. This particular car is equipped with the sport suspension. It has a 20mm drop, although there's still plenty of room. And I know Nick Murray, my friend Nick Murray, he always says, oh, I don't like GTS models, they're too low. This seems to have plenty of room, and we've been going in and out of parking lots all day between the Cayman and the E63, and they're both clearing everything just fine. Now, the real reason that this is so special, other than the appearance package, because it's pretty notable that the GTS looks better objectively than the S, but it's also more usable than a GT4. Not only because of the suspension and the front bumpers being a little easier to clear things, but you're not put in this position where you have to get the carbon buckets. When you get a GT4, yes, you can option them with or without the carbon buckets. If I had a GT4 without the carbon buckets, I'd be pretty bummed. But on the other hand, I'd also be annoyed that I had to drive around in carbon buckets all the time. These are really comfortable seats, and it's beautiful inside with the Alcantara and the Alcantara wheel. So enough chit chat, let's just go out and take a little ride and make some noise, because by the way, this thing is very loud. Oh my goodness, that AMG sounds good, but I gotta say, this Cayman sounds better. And this one is PDK. Some may hold that as a strike against it. I really like PDK, and not only that, PDK allows you to make noises with these engines that you just otherwise could not in a manual transmission. Oh, it's good to get out and drive. I think we should go into sport mode. There's our exhaust. What's crazy about this car is just how easy it is to drive and how flat and intuitive it feels. The steering is so precise. It's not a particularly heavy vehicle either. It's 3,031 pounds according to the spreadsheet. That's actually really good, because although, yes, it's lighter is always better. It's beautiful out here. These are great roads. Lighter is always better. We want super light cars. It's always fun to have a 2,500 pound car. It's also substantial enough to cruise around on the highway and not just get like tossed around by every bump on the road. The gearing is very long. I will say that's probably the one downside of these cars. We go to first for this, 20 miles an hour. But I think with PDK, you find yourself playing with the gears a little more than you would with the 6-speed. I just love how these engines evolve. The sound changes so much over the rev range. It is important that your car isn't so fast that you can't enjoy it on a public road. I think the GT4 is definitely that. This GTS gives me the ability to kind of exploit it a little bit. The limits are high, but they're not so high that I'm bored just driving it around at 40 or 50 miles per hour. The GT4, it feels like nothing is happening until you're at 80 or 90, and it really is a shame, because it makes the car kind of a waste on public roads. So unless you're gonna go do 10 or 12 track days a year in your GT4, okay, maybe that's exaggerating, maybe 6, let's say you're gonna go do 6 track days a year in your GT4, then it's probably worthwhile. But if you're not gonna do that, why spend the money on it when you can have plenty of fun in a car with slightly lower limits and more usability? And that's where this Cayman GTS really fits into the equation. I can't wait till the street sweepers come out. And by the way, this GTS will be right at home on a racetrack. Don't feel like if you can't stretch for the GT4, you're not going to have as much fun. This is every bit the mid-engine Porsche driving experience that a GT4 is, just with slightly lower limits. And that's the point, is until you're at like 8.5, 9, 10 tenths, the difference between this and the GT4, for most people is going to be negligible, and you're going to enjoy this car more, and you're going to spend $20,000 or $30,000 less to enter it. But that is the problem, right? These are hard to find for under $60,000. Most of them are in that 55 to 65 range. And at that point, you're thinking, well, why don't I just go get myself a Cayman S, right? And you might be right. That is the move. The Cayman S is a phenomenal value. And very few of them have the limited slip differential, which is a problem, because if you want to find a Cayman S with the limited slip, there's no little box to tick on Auto Trader or Cars.com or whatever platform you use. You don't say like, oh, I'd like a manual transmission, tick box. I'd like the limited slip differential. No, it's not in there. You have to know your stuff, and you're gonna hunt and hunt and hunt to try to find a Cayman S. Look at this Hawk. Oh, that was super cool. It's so difficult to find a Cayman S, whereas when you get the GTS, you kind of know you're already getting most of what you want, and then you just have to decide on a few options, and maybe you can concede on those. Do you need the sport suspension? Can you do without it? This engine has so much torque in the mid-range too, which is wild, because like you'd think you'd have to wind this out really hard, but you just don't. You really just don't. Street sweepers! Yes, yes, thank you. Do God's work. One thing that absolutely blows my mind about Porsche is that they did the wrong directions for upshift downshifts on the PDK stick. Are you kidding me? Porsche didn't get this right? Okay, here's the deal. In any sequential transmission, a pull back is an upshift, a push forward is a downshift. Porsche even messed this up. Thankfully, they got the paddles correct after a very bad iteration on the early 991.1s with those toggle things. Oy, those were bad. But they got this wrong. So, unfortunately, when you pull back, it's a downshift, and when you push forward, it's an upshift. That is incorrect. Throttle response is great. Something else we need to talk about are these brakes. People are always so caught up with, oh, I've got to have carbon ceramics. Oh, you've got to have the carbon ceramics. You do not. You do not. You do not need the carbon ceramics. Are they good? Yes, of course they're good. But the point of a carbon ceramic brake isn't necessarily to improve your stopping. It's to improve repeated stops. It's to improve the ability to remove heat from those rotors, so that way you don't overheat the brakes. It's for track driving. The whole point of a carbon ceramic brake is to be able to make repeated stops over and over and over again, and those heat cycles can be nice and short because it can evacuate heat faster than a steel rotor. They're so expensive. If you have to replace a set of carbon ceramics, which is very rare, they last a wicked long time, much longer than steel brakes, but they can crack. It's like $10,000 or something outrageous for a set. And B, chances are most of us are not in a position where we're going to exhaust the properties of these steel brakes. In fact, on a racetrack, 15-20 minute session on a normal track day, you're going to be just fine with these brakes. Maybe you want to toss in some higher temp fluid or a racier track pad so you don't liquefy the stock street pads, but it's a Porsche. It's going to be just fine. So don't get all caught up in the fact that like, oh, I've got to have this carbon ceramic option. You don't really need that option.
Are you looking to be able to accelerate?
Yeah.
Okay, I have that.
All right, let's try a launch control. I want to see what this thing is like. So I'm going to put it in drive. We're in sport mode. I'm going to go full foot on brake. That is wonderful. Wow. I mean, look, think about this car. It's not outrageously fast. It's not like, it's not something that's gonna just knock your socks off in a straight line, but it has plenty going for it, and you don't need more. Well, maybe you do, I don't know, I don't. I think it's nice to have a car that you can really exploit and enjoy. So guys, that's the Cayman GTS. I am just so incredibly thankful for the opportunity to drive this. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. We've got to do one more launch control. Got Mike behind me.